Inside the cryovault wasn't riches, it was a parched xenovampire dormant for 6,000 cycles. Xylo adjusted his noctovision optics as he descended deeper into the KRYLL temple's core. His obsidian stealth weave, reinforced with durasteel plating, made barely a whisper as he navigated the gloom. The temple walls, coated in phosphorescent lichen, emitted a spectral viridian glow that complemented his gear's enhanced vision. "Another blind passage," he muttered, stroking his dense umber beard. His shoulder-length, undulating hair was secured in a functional braid, keeping it clear of his vision as he studied the archaic glyphs etched into the walls. The Galactic Archaeological Guild had dispatched him to probe this recently unearthed temple on Kepler 186f, but this expedition felt anomalous. The glyphs weren't merely aesthetic, they narrated a chronicle of a civilization that had inexplicably vanished millennia ago. "Base, do you receive?" Xylo inquired into his comlink. "Only static," replied. "Wonderful, interference persists." He ventured deeper, his boots imprinting on the age-old dust. The temple's architecture was unprecedented, organic curves merging seamlessly with geometric designs, forging an alien yet strangely recognizable aesthetic. The corridor unfurled into a colossal chamber, and Xylo's breath hitched. At its center stood a gargantuan cryovault, its surface veiled in elaborate carvings that appeared to undulate in his enhanced vision. The artifact was easily 3.7 meters tall and constructed from an unidentifiable material. "By the void," he breathed, approaching cautiously. His scanner indicated no radiation or toxic substances. This could be it, the find of a lifetime. The cryovault's surface was frigid to the touch, almost metallic, yet possessing an organic texture. Xylo located what seemed to be a juncture and retrieved his multi-tool. "Let's see what secrets you're concealing." As he manipulated the seam, the ambient temperature plummeted. His breath condensed into vapor, and the lichen's luminescence intensified. With a final exertion, the juncture fractured, releasing a hiss of ancient air. Xylo retreated, weapon at the ready, standard protocol when unsealing any alien containment, but nothing could have prepared him for what materialized. A lithe form erupted from the cryovault, moving with preternatural speed. Before he could react, she stood before him, a humanoid female with jade-green skin and flowing onyx hair that seemed to devour light. Her eyes glowed crimson, and when she parted her lips, sharp fangs glistened. Xylo leveled his laser pistol, but something in those eyes gave him pause. They weren't merely predatory, they held sentience, curiosity, and desperation. "You're either remarkably courageous or remarkably imprudent to venture here alone," she stated in flawless Standard Galactic, her voice carrying an ethereal resonance. "How do you comprehend my language?" Xylo maintained his weapon's aim, but his finger remained off the trigger. She smiled, revealing those striking fangs once more. "Your surface cogitations are rather audible, particularly when you're apprehensive. I am Lyra, last of the Cthar. And you, Xylo Toth, have just preserved my existence by unsealing that cryovault." "You're a sanguivore," he stated, the pieces aligning.
"The legends, the Glypsilumpas, it alcoholest now."
A coarse designation, but fundamentally accurate. "My species evolved to necessitate plasma for sustenance, though we renounced preying on sentient beings eons ago." She swayed slightly. "I've been in stasis for 6,000 cycles, evading those who sought our annihilation. And now I'm exceedingly famished." Xylo detected movement behind him, a sizable rodent, drawn by the disturbance. In one fluid motion, he pivoted and fired.
The laser blast struck the creature cleanly.
He retrieved the still-warm carcass and offered it to Lyra. Not precisely a delicacy, but..." She laughed, a surprisingly melodic sound. "How considerate. Typically, males simply flee in terror upon encountering me." She accepted the rodent with a gracious inclination. "Though I must confess, your culinary technique is rather novel." As she consumed, color infused her jade skin, and her movements regained their fluidity. "Much improved. Now shall we deliberate why you're truly here, and perhaps why the cosmos ordained for someone like you to discover me?" The ancient chamber's atmosphere shifted as Lyra regained her vitality, the emerald hue of her skin intensifying to a more vibrant shade. Xylo maintained his distance, professional training conflicting with undeniable allure. "Your technology," he gestured toward the cryovault, "it's astounding. The stasis fields, Their complexity surpasses anything we've conceived. Lyra stretched languidly, her movements exuding an otherworldly grace.
Necessity fools innovation, xylotod.
When your entire species confronts extinction, you learn to transcend limitations. She traced her fingers along the cryovault surface, activating concealed patterns that shimmered beneath her touch. This was more than a mere sanctuary, it was a repository of our collective knowledge. The Galactic Archaeological Guild would sacrifice fortunes for access to this, Xylo murmured, then winced at his unfortunate choice of words. Lyra's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound reminiscent of crystalline chimes.
An Ilkosen-Phrase, considering your association.
Her crimson eyes twinkled with amusement. Though I must admit, your species' candor is invigorating. She moved nearer, scrutinizing him with uninhibited interest. Xylo stood his ground, though his pulse accelerated. At this proximity, he could discern the subtle patterns in her jade skin, like living circuitry beneath the surface. "You're not what I anticipated," she confessed, circling him slowly. "Most species we encountered were either aggressive or petrified. But you..." She paused, inhaling deeply. "You're inquisitive, exhilarated even. Your heart palpitates, not from fear, but anticipation." "I'm an explorer," Xylo responded, rotating to keep her in view.
Discovering new life, new civilizations. It's my raison d'être.
"And what about rediscovering ancient ones?" Her fangs glinted as she smiled. "My people were archaic when your ancestors were mastering the art of pyrotechnics." Before Xylo could reply, a low rumble reverberated through the chamber. Dust and debris cascaded from the ceiling as dormant mechanisms awakened.
The Temple's security systems.
Lyra hissed, her playful demeanor vanishing. Unsealing the cryovault must have triggered them. Xylo checked his equipment readings. Energy signatures are spiking throughout the complex. Whatever powers this place, it's awakening. "We need to reach the control nexus," Lyra stated, moving toward one of the chamber's exits. "These defenses were designed to safeguard against the Reavers. They won't differentiate between ally and adversary." "Lead the way," Xylo replied, readying his weapon. "Though I must inquire, who or what are the Reavers?"
Lyras expression darkened.
"Pray you never discover. They're the reason my people were forced into concealment, the reason I spent 6 millennia in stasis." She paused at the threshold, glancing back at him. "They harvest genetic material from advanced species, utilizing it to enhance themselves. And they're still extant, somewhere in the void between galaxies." The temple shuddered again, and distant machinery echoed through the corridors. Xylo made a swift decision, one that would irrevocably alter his life. "My mission was to survey this temple, document its secrets," he said, falling into step beside her. "I'd say locating a living member of its civilization qualifies as a resounding success. Are you offering your assistance?" Lyra inquired, genuine surprise in her voice. "I'm offering a partnership," Xylo clarified.
Your knowledge, my skills. Togeter, wie mich just endure warte versus place unleashes.
Lyra studied him for a prolonged moment, her crimson eyes seemingly piercing his very soul. Finally, she nodded. "A partnership," she agreed, extending her hand in a surprisingly human gesture. "Though I caution you, Xylo Toth, becoming entangled with me might be more of an adventure than you anticipated." He clasped her hand, noting how her cool skin seemed to warm at his touch.
"I'll take my chances."
Together, they ventured deeper into the temple's depths, oblivious that their encounter would ignite events that would alter not only their destinies but the fate of 2 species for eternity. The temple's ancient corridors seemed to throb with revitalized energy as Xylo and Lyra navigated deeper into its labyrinthine structure. Their footfalls echoed off walls adorned with bioluminescent circuitry, casting ever-shifting shadows that danced around them. "Your heart still races," Lyra observed, her emerald skin reflecting the ambient glow. "But its rhythm has altered, more anticipatory now." Xylo checked his scanner, attempting to maintain professional focus despite her teasing. "These energy readings are astronomical. The entire temple is awakening." And deflecting my observation, she moved with fluid grace, her midnight hair flowing like liquid shadow. "How very human of you." Before he could respond, the scanner beeped urgently. Multiple power signatures activating ahead. Looks like defense drones. Lyra's playful demeanor shifted to alert focus.
The Temples automated guardians.
They're not particularly discerning about targets. A metallic whirring filled the air as sleek, silver machines emerged from wall panels, their crystalline cores pulsating with the same energy that powered the temple. Any vulnerabilities I should be aware of? Xylo asked, weapon ready. Lyra's fangs glinted in a predatory smile. Several. Observe and learn, partner. She moved like liquid mercury, faster than human eyes could track. The first drone detonated in a shower of sparks as her clawed hand pierced its core. Xylo didn't waste time admiring her prowess. He fired precise shots at the drone's joint mechanisms, sending them crashing to the ground. Impressive accuracy, Lyra called out, dispatching another drone. Most species lack the coordination to target such diminutive points. Most species don't possess Spec Ops training, he replied, rolling beneath a drone's energy blast and obliterating it with a point-blank shot. Working in tandem, they cleared the corridor in minutes. Xylo noticed how they instinctively complemented each other's movements, as if they'd trained together for cycles instead of mere hours. You adapt swiftly, Lyra noted, examining one of the destroyed drones. These units were engineered to counter multiple species' combat styles, yet you identified their weaknesses instantaneously. Professional curiosity, Xylo echoed her earlier words with a grin. Speaking of which, these drones appear familiar. Similar design to your cryovault. Lyra's expression turned grave. They should. Both were created to defend against the Reavers. She touched the drone's crystalline core, and a holographic data stream projected from it. These were our final line of defense. When they failed. Her voice trailed off as the hologram displayed massive ships darkening skies, mechanical hordes descending upon gleaming cities. Xylo stepped closer, drawn by both the historical significance and the anguish in her voice. You don't have to discuss it, he said softly. She turned to him, crimson eyes intense. But I do. Because they're still out there, Xylo. The Reavers never cease. They traverse galaxies, gathering genetic material to enhance themselves. And now. She gestured to the activated temple around them. Now they might know where to locate me. The temple's power signature, Xylo realized. It could function as a beacon. Precisely. Which signifies we need to reach the control nexus expeditiously. She resumed her movement, her pace urgent but controlled. There's more at stake here than mere archaic history. They traversed deeper into the temple complex, encountering more activated defense systems. Each challenge seemed to fortify their coordination, their movements becoming increasingly synchronized. Through here, Lyra indicated a massive doorway covered in pulsating glyphs. The primary archive chamber. It connects to the control nexus. The door slid open at her touch, revealing a vast circular room filled with holographic displays. Ancient knowledge floated in the air like luminous clouds, awaiting access. Magnificent, Xylo breathed, his explorer's heart racing at the sight. Indeed it is, Lyra agreed. But when he glanced over, she was looking at him rather than the displays. Their eyes met, and the air seemed to charge with unspoken possibilities. Xylo felt drawn to her, professional detachment warring with burgeoning attraction. You know, Lyra said softly, stepping closer, in my culture, displaying such proficiency in combat is deemed quite alluring. Is that so? Xylo managed, acutely aware of her proximity. And here I believed you were merely impressed by my drone-neutralizing technique. Her laugh sent shivers down his spine. That too. Though I must confess, I'm finding many human traits intriguing. Before the moment could develop further, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Holographic displays shifted, showing multiple objects entering the planet's atmosphere. No, Lyra whispered, her face paling to a lighter shade of emerald. It's premature. They couldn't have detected us already. Xylo studied the readings, his military training kicking in. 7 vessels. Advanced stealth technology, but my scanners are picking up trace energy signatures, similar to your temple's power source. Reaver scout ships, Lyra confirmed, her hands flying over the control interfaces. They must have detected the temple's reactivation. We need to. The entire chamber shuddered as something massive impacted the surface above. Emergency containment fields sprang to life around them as ancient defense protocols activated.
Options.
Xylo asked, already calculating escape routes. Lyra's expression was fierce.
We fight.
This temple contains more than just historical records, Xylo. It holds weaponry, technology that could aid in defending your people when the Reavers reach your worlds. You're proposing we hold this position against an enemy that nearly eradicated your species? She turned to him, determination burning in her crimson eyes.
No.
I'm proposing we awaken this temple's full defensive capabilities and remind the Reavers why they should fear the Cthar. Her hand found his, cool fingers intertwining with warm ones. That is, if you're willing to entrust a sanguivore you just encountered with potentially apocalyptic alien technology. Xylo squeezed her hand, feeling the strength in her delicate fingers. Well, when you phrase it that way, how could I refuse? The archive chamber's holographic displays shifted, showing real-time footage of the Reaver ships deploying ground forces. Their mechanical forms were a nightmarish fusion of organic and synthetic components, each movement precise and predatory. Charming assemblage, Xylo commented, checking his weapon's charge. Any further surprises I should be cognizant of? Lyra's fingers danced across the control interfaces, awakening more of the temple's systems. The Reavers adapt rapidly. Every encounter educates them, improves them. These won't be the same adversaries my people faced millennia ago. Evolution through assimilation, Xylo mused. No wonder they were intrigued by your species.
Intrigued?
Lyra's laugh held no mirth. They were obsessed. The Cthar's ability to manipulate bioenergy, our enhanced strength and speed, our longevity. We were their quintessential prey. She paused, glancing at him. Much like humans would be now. Xylo raised an eyebrow. Us? We're barely interstellar. But resilient, adaptable, and... Her eyes traveled over him appreciatively. Physically impressive. The Reavers value potential as much as current capabilities. The chamber rumbled again as more impacts shook the surface. Xylo studied the tactical displays, noting the enemy's movement patterns. They're establishing a perimeter. Standard containment protocol. You've witnessed similar tactics? Spec Ops, remember? Different scale, same principle. He pointed to several approach vectors. They'll probe for weaknesses while preventing escape. Classic siege strategy. Lyra's expression brightened. Then perhaps it's time we demonstrate some weaknesses of their own. She activated a new set of controls, and the chamber's floor began to reconfigure. Hidden panels slid aside, revealing an arsenal of ancient Cthar weaponry. Xylo whistled low. Now that's what I denominate a concealed compartment. These were our ultimate line of defense, Lyra explained, lifting what appeared to be a rifle-like device. Quantum phase disruptors. They target the Reavers' hybrid biology, forcing their organic and mechanical components out of synchronization. She handed him the weapon, and Xylo felt it adjust to his grip, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Neural interface. Impressive. Lyra smirked, arming herself with similar weaponry. Terrified, actually. In a positive manner. He tested the weapon's weight, feeling it become an extension of his thoughts. You know, most initial dates involve dinner and discourse, not defending archaic temples from cybernetic space vampires. Lyra's laughter echoed through the chamber. Feeling overwhelmed, human? Not at all, he grinned. Just pondering if this signifies you're interested in a subsequent date? Their banter was interrupted by proximity alerts. The Reavers had breached the temple's outer defenses and were advancing inward. Lyra's expression turned serious as she activated the temple's final defensive protocols. Xylo, she said softly, what we're about to confront, there's no shame in. He cut her off by stepping closer, his free hand cupping her face. The contact sent electric shivers through both of them. I'm not going anywhere, partner. Their eyes locked, crimson meeting brown, and something unspoken passed between them. Lyra leaned into his touch, her cool skin warming slightly. Then let's provide them with a proper Cthar welcome, she whispered, her fangs glinting in a feral smile. The chamber's defenses hummed to life around them as they took positions. Xylo felt the temple's ancient power coursing through the quantum weapon, synchronized with his thoughts and reflexes. Beside him, Lyra moved with predatory grace, her emerald skin seeming to pulse with barely contained energy. "One final thing," she said, turning to him. "Whatever transpires, whatever you witness, remember that not all monstrosities are what they appear." "I ascertained that the moment you elected not to consume me," Xylo replied with a wink. Lyra's response was cut short as the first wave of Reavers breached the chamber's outer doors. The battle for the temple, and possibly the future of two species, was about to commence. The temple's archive chamber erupted in chaos as Xylo and Lyra faced the first wave of Reaver forces. Their quantum weapons carved paths through the mechanical monstrosities, each shot disrupting the fusion of organic and synthetic components that constituted their enemies. "Multiple human vessels entering orbit," Xylo called out, checking the tactical display between shots. "Looks like the Galactic Defense Fleet intercepted the Reaver signatures." Lyra moved with supernatural grace, her emerald skin glowing with battle energy. "Your people's timing is impeccable," she dispatched 3 Reavers with precise strikes, though elucidating my presence might prove intriguing. "Admiral Valerius is leading the fleet," Xylo replied, admiring how the temple's ancient weapons synchronized with his combat training. "He's more open-minded than most. Plus, he owes me a favor." Their conversation paused as another wave of Reavers breached the chamber. Fighting side by side, Xylo and Lyra developed an instinctive rhythm. Her enhanced speed complemented his tactical precision, creating a deadly dance that left their enemies in pieces. The chamber's holographic displays flickered with new data as human dropships began landing on the surface. Lyra's movements became even more fluid, almost mesmerizing, as the battle intensity escalated. "Your admiral might reconsider that favor when he witnesses what's truly here," she said, her voice carrying an undertone of concern. "Most species don't react favorably to discovering ancient sanguivore technology." Xylo dispatched another Reaver before responding. "Humans are different. Curious by nature." His eyes met hers between shots. "And personally, I find ancient sanguivore technology incredibly attractive." A smile played across Lyra's lips as she elegantly sidestepped an enemy attack. "Just the technology?" Before Xylo could respond, the chamber's main entrance exploded inward. Human Marines in powered armor stormed through the breach, their weapons already targeting the Reavers. Leading them was a tall, distinguished man with silver-streaked hair, Admiral Valerius himself. "Toth." Valerius's voice boomed through the chaos. "Care to elucidate why my morning report includes unidentified ancient temples, alien vampires, and mechanical horrors?" "Just another cycle at the office, sir," Xylo called back, continuing to fight alongside Lyra. "Though I should mention, the vampire is on our side." The Admiral's eyes narrowed as he assessed Lyra, who had just elegantly decapitated a Reaver with her bare hands. "I can perceive that.
Impressive technique."
"Thank you, Admiral," Lyra replied diplomatically, her fangs glinting. "I'd curtsy, but we're somewhat preoccupied." The combined forces of human Marines and ancient temple defenses began pushing the Reavers back. Xylo found himself constantly aware of Lyra's presence, her movements becoming increasingly synchronized with his own. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. "Multiple enemy vessels retreating from orbit," a Marine reported. "Fleets engaging the stragglers." Admiral Valerius surveyed the chamber while his troops secured the perimeter. "Toth, your report mentioned artifacts, not a fully operational alien military installation." "To be equitable, sir," Xylo gestured to Lyra, who was examining a wounded Marine's armor with fascination, "I didn't precisely anticipate locating her either." "Indeed." Valerius's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held a hint of amusement. "And your companion seems quite comfortable with human military protocols." Lyra approached them, her midnight hair settling like a dark halo. "I've had 6 millennia to study various species' combat techniques. Humans are particularly inventive." The way she said inventive made Xylo's pulse quicken. Their eyes met briefly, and he saw his own burgeoning feelings reflected in her crimson gaze. "Sir," Xylo addressed Valerius, "the Reavers will return in greater numbers. They've been hunting the Cthar Lyra's people for their genetic advantages. Now they're interested in humans for the same reason." Valerius nodded gravely. I suspected as much when our long-range sensors detected their biomechanical signatures. The Federation Council needs to be apprised of this threat. The temple contains defensive technologies that could aid in protecting Earth, Lyra offered. My people developed countermeasures against the Reaver absorption abilities. And you're willing to share this technology? Valerius asked, his tactical mind clearly working. Let's posit I have a vested interest in humanity's survival. Lyra's hand brushed against Xylo's arm, sending electricity through both of them. The Admiral's eyes flickered between them, noting the gesture. I see. Toth, you'll remain here as our liaison. Collaborate with, Lyra, to catalog the temple's defensive capabilities. Yes, sir, Xylo replied, perhaps too quickly. As Valerius coordinated with his fleet, Xylo and Lyra found themselves alone in a quieter section of the chamber. The battle's adrenaline was fading, replaced by something more intense. Your admiral is quite perceptive, Lyra murmured, moving closer. Though he doesn't comprehend half of what's truly transpiring here. Xylo felt drawn to her like a moth to a flame. And what precisely is transpiring here? Something unprecedented. Her emerald skin seemed to pulse with inner light. My people never contemplated the possibility of compatibility with other species. But you're different, Xylo. Humans are different. Their faces were inches apart now. The chamber's ancient energy seemed to resonate with their proximity, creating a subtle harmonic hum. Different, good. Xylo asked softly. Different, perfect, Lyra breathed. The temple's ambient light dimmed around them, as if responding to their intimate moment. Lyra's crimson eyes held depths of longing that transcended mere physical attraction. My people believed in destiny, she whispered, her cool breath brushing his skin. That certain souls were destined to locate each other across the vast expanse of space and time. Xylo cupped her face gently, feeling her skin warm to his touch. And what do you believe? I believe 6,000 cycles of waiting led me to this moment, to you. Her fingers traced the contours of his beard. Humans truly are remarkable creatures. So young, yet so courageous, so passionate. Their first kiss was like touching a live wire, electric, perilous, and absolutely irresistible. The temple's crystals pulsed in harmony with their heartbeats as centuries of solitude melted away in the heat of their embrace. Hours later, Admiral Valerius discovered them reviewing ancient defense schematics, their professional demeanor betrayed only by subtle glances and lingering touches. The Council has approved emergency protocols, Valerius announced. We're establishing a permanent base here. The temple's defenses will be integrated with our fleet. A sagacious decision, Lyra nodded, her midnight hair cascading over Xylo's shoulder as she leaned across him to adjust a holographic display. The Reaver defeat here was merely tactical. They'll return with overwhelming force. Then we'll be prepared, Xylo assured her, his hand finding hers beneath the control panel. Days blurred into weeks as they toiled together, preparing Earth's defenses while growing ever closer. Their relationship deepened beyond physical attraction, becoming something profound and transformative. Lyra's ancient knowledge complemented Xylo's tactical expertise, creating strategies that would safeguard both their species. One evening, as they stood watching twin moons ascend over the temple spires, Lyra shared a revelation that would alter everything. My people possessed a prophecy, she said softly, about a union that would inaugurate a new era, a joining of ancient and young, of shadow and light. Xylo turned to her, understanding dawning in his eyes. You believe. I know. Her hand rested on her abdomen, where new life was beginning to stir. What's developing within me is unprecedented. A perfect fusion of our species. The prophecy speaks of such a child leading both races to victory against the darkness between stars. Their joy was private but profound, shared in the quiet moments between strategy sessions and defense preparations. The temple itself seemed to celebrate, its ancient systems humming with renewed purpose. Admiral Valerius, ever observant, noticed the change in them. I presume congratulations are in order, he asked one morning, surprising them in the archive chamber. Lyra's emerald skin flushed darker. News disseminates rapidly. I'm head of the Galactic Defense Fleet, Valerius smiled knowingly. Knowing things is my vocation. His expression grew serious. This alters everything, doesn't it? It already has, Xylo replied, standing protectively close to Lyra. The child will be irrefutable evidence that our species can do more than merely coexist. We can evolve, together, become stronger. Valerius nodded thoughtfully. The Council will need to be informed. This could be precisely what we require to unite humanity behind the impending war. The Reavers will sense the child's unique energy signature, Lyra warned. They'll pursue us with everything they possess. Let them come, Xylo declared, his voice carrying the strength of both their species. They'll find Earth prepared. Humanity, standing alongside the last of the Cthar, safeguarding a future they never envisioned possible. The temple's defenses pulsed with power, as if responding to his words. Lyra's hand found his, their fingers intertwining as they had that first day in battle. You know, she mused, her fangs glinting in a playful smile, when I entered the cryovault 6,000 cycles ago, I never imagined awakening to all this. Disappointed? Xylo teased. Quite the contrary. Her free hand rested on her abdomen, where their impossible miracle grew stronger each day. I believe I discovered something far more valuable than any treasure. Admiral Valerius cleared his throat awkwardly. I'll, leave you two to your strategic planning. The fleet will commence rotating defensive positions tomorrow. And as he departed, Lyra turned to Xylo with mischief in her crimson eyes. Strategic planning? Is that what humans denominate it now? Their laughter echoed through the ancient halls, a sound of joy that hadn't been heard there for millennia. The temple's crystals sang in harmony with their happiness, celebrating the union of two species that would forever alter the course of galactic history. Outside, Earth military forces continued arriving, establishing a permanent presence around the temple. But within its ancient walls, Xylo and Lyra had created something far more potent than any weapon, a love that transcended time, species, and the very laws of nature itself. Their child would be born into a world of both war and wonder, carrying the strength of humanity and the ancient power of the Cthar. But that was a narrative yet to unfold, another chapter in an epic that commenced with a simple archaeological expedition and culminated in the greatest discovery in human history, not of treasure but of love.